Welcome back to Best Academy TV. In this video, we're going to focus on limits of a function by factorization method. Alright, now class, whenever you are given any question on limits and you replace the value of s, whenever you are given any question on limits and you replace the value of s, if the limit of a function gives 0 at numerator and 0 at denominator, we call that particular limit indeterminate limit. Please take notes. That is when the value of s, that is if I'm giving f of s, limit of f of s over g of s as s tends to a, and the value of the numerator, when you replace the value of s and the value of the numerator, that is f of s, gives 0, and the value of denominator, g of s, gives 0. So at that point, we use factorization method. Please take notes. At that point, we use factorization method. Let's solve some questions here to understand how to use. Let's solve some questions here to understand limit by factorization method. Okay, now question 1. We are giving question 1 here. That's question 1. They said evaluate limit of s squared minus 3s plus 2 over s squared minus 5s plus 6 as s tends to 2. Now, the first thing to do whenever a limit tends to a particular number, the first method to use is direct substitution method. Please take notes. So let's use direct substitution method to know the value of this limit. But please don't forget, if the value of this limit gives us 0 at numerator and 0 at denominator, that means we apply factorization method. Please take notes. Let's replace the value of s here. When you replace the value of s in that limit, we have this to be 2 squared minus 3 into 2 plus 2 over 2 squared minus 5 into 2 plus 6. So class, 2 squared is 4. That is how it to be 4 minus 6 plus 2 over 4 minus 10 plus 6. So class, 4 minus 6 will give us minus 2 plus 2 over 4 minus 10 will give us minus 6, that is minus 6 plus 6. So when you punch your calculator, this will give us 0 at numerator, this will give us 0 at denominator. So it means that this particular limit will be solved using factorization method. Let's take note of this. Whenever you replace the value of s and you have 0 at numerator and 0 at denominator, we call that particular limit indeterminate limit. Now, for every indeterminate limit, we use factorization method to solve that. Please take notes. Okay. Now, let's solve this question here, class. To solve this question here, I have to factorize this limit. That is limit of s squared minus 3s plus 2 over s squared minus 5s plus 6 as s tends to 2. Class, whenever you want to factorize a particular expression, it must be a quadratic or a polynomial. To factorize any expression, it must be a quadratic or polynomial. That is, any value of s raised to the power of 2 and above can be factorized. Please take note. But if it's an equation, an expression that is a power of s raised to the power of 1, we can't factorize that. Okay, that means I will factorize this quadratic equation at numerator, I will factorize this quadratic equation at denominator. Please take note. So when you do that, this is a quadratic equation, and the method we use to factorize a quadratic is to find the target factor. So how do we find the target factor here? Let's factorize the numerator part first, class. Now so the numerator part here, we have the numerator part here to be class s squared minus 3s plus 2. So class, I will find the target factor. How do we find the target factor? I will look for the coefficient of s squared and multiply it with the constant part. This is a constant part. If you relate this here with the general format of quadratic equation, that means we have this to be as squared plus bs plus c. Please take note. So this part here is the constant part. So multiply the coefficient of s squared with the constant part to get the target value or factor. Okay, the coefficient here is the number attached to s squared. There's an invisible value here attached to s squared. Please take note. So 1 times the constant value, which is 2. I will have my target factor to be 2. Please take note of this. So I will find two values that when you multiply those two values, you will have 2. And when you add up those two values, that the product part of it will be minus 3. So those two values will be minus 1 times minus 2. Minus 1 times minus 2 give us 2. Minus 1, the product of the two guys here, that is minus 1 and minus 2 here, the product of it will be minus 3. So that means I will have this to be, when you factor this here, you will have this to be, class. Our two factors here, class. The two factors here in this quadratic is minus 1 and minus 2. Please take notes. So that means I will have this to be, class, s squared minus s, that is s times minus 1 will be minus s, minus s times minus 2 will be minus 2s plus 2. So whenever you have something like this, class, you group them together. We have 4 parts here, so I will group them together. So grouping this here, we have to be s squared minus s. Group these two guys minus group this 2s minus 2. Please take note. When you open this bracket here with minus, when you multiply this minus with this, you have minus 2s. That is this. When you multiply this minus with this minus here, you have plus here. Okay, nothing changed. All right. Now the next is to factor out. There is something common here, and there is something common here. So when you factor that, there's something common at the first bracket, which is this part here. So s is common here, s is common here. When you factor it out, I will have s into, when you remove s, I'll be left with 1s here, minus, when you remove s from here, I'll be left with 1. Please take note. Minus, there's something common here, also common here. Please take note. That is 2. When you remove 2, this will be 2 into, remove 2 from this part here, you have s. Remove 2 here, you have minus 1. Please take note. So if you look into this here, this part and this part, they are the same. You take 1. So that means I will take this to be s minus 1 and s minus 2. So when you factor the numerator, we have this to be s minus 1 and s minus 2. That is for numerator. Now let's do the same thing at denominator part. When you factor the denominator part here, class, let's do the same thing here. Class, for denominator here, we have s squared minus 5s plus 6. So let's factor this out. This is a quadratic. So to factor this here, I have to look for the factor, the target factor. So I will take the coefficient of s squared and multiply it with the constants. Please take note. So the coefficient of s squared here is 1. So 1 multiplied by 6, I will have this to be 6. So the target factor here is 6. So I'll find two things to find the root here. I'll find two things that when you multiply, you have 6. So when you add them together, you have minus 3. So those two values will be minus 3 and minus 2. Minus 3 times minus 2 will be plus 6. Now minus 3 minus 2 will be minus 5. So class, the two values will be this. So I will have this to be s squared. So to get these two values here, this will be minus 3s minus 2s plus 6. So whenever you have four parts here, you group them together in a quadratic, okay? Now let's group this together. This will be s squared minus 3s. Group this together, class. Now minus 2s. What will make this part here to be minus is when what will make this part here to be plus is when you put minus here. Please take note. 6, please take note, is equal to class. Let's factor what is common in this bracket. Let's factor it out and also factor what is common in this bracket here. Please take note. So what is common here is s, is common here, also common here, okay? When you do that, we have this to be s will be into s minus 3. When you remove s here, you'll be left with 1s here. When you remove s here, you'll be left with 3 minus. Now let's factor what is common here. 2 is common here, also common here, okay? Now when you factor out 2, I will have this with 2 into s minus 3. So both sides here, that is this and this, they are the same. So you take only one, please take note. When you take only one here, I will have this to be s minus 3 into s minus 2. So when you factor the numerator, please listen to me carefully. When you factor the numerator, we have s minus 2 into s minus 1. When you factor the denominator, we have s minus 3 into s minus 2. So now let's replace that in the question given to us here, class. In the equation given to us here, that is limit of s squared minus 3s plus 2 over s squared minus 5s plus 6 as s tends to 2. So class, when you replace the value of s as 2, this gave us 0 at numerator and 0 at denominator. That is indeterminate limit. So we say that for every indeterminate limit, we use factorization method. Please take note. So when you factor the numerator here, that is this one here, we got s minus 2 into s minus 1. Okay, the same thing here. When you factor the denominator here, we got s minus 3 into s minus 2. So class, this guy, we cancel this guy here. I'll be left with s minus 1 over s minus 3. Please take note. Please remember that the value of s here is 2. So when you replace it, this will be equal to 2 minus 1 over 2 minus 3. So our answer will be equal to class 1 over minus 1. And the result here will be equal to minus 1. Please take note. So this is the answer to this, okay? Now there's a short way to solve every indeterminate limit. And the short method is called L'Hopital's method, okay? So all you have to do is to hit the subscribe button to get all the method in solving limits of a function, okay? Thank you.